Hey, and welcome to the Life in a Bookshelf podcast with Beck Mills. Here you will find convos about well-being, about home, and a bunch of book love as well. We chat all things from health hacks to simplifying our home, to decluttering, to mini book reviews for you as well. Let's take this 30-something life head on and start creating a really positive impact in our own lives, in our families, and out into our wider communities. So glad that you're here. Let's jump on in.
Well, hello and welcome back. This is season 2 of the Life in a Bookshelf podcast. I'm so happy that you are here. It's great to be back. I feel like it's been a really long time coming in lots of ways, but I feel like at the same time this year has absolutely flown by. So many new, different, exciting, challenging experiences this year so far. And today I wanted to chat about we're coming into towards the end of the year, very close to December now at the time of this recording. And what's really funny is actually this is a pretty much year to the day when I started this podcast. And at the very, very start, my aim was to do 10 episodes of the podcast. And then quickly that became 25 and I reached that. And then things kind of got hectic and this project was kind of put to the side. My goal for the end of the year is to get to 35 episodes on the podcast. Now, the reason I say this is when we think of this time of year, often it's, we do get a bit reflective, but we get really busy and there's lots of external things going on. And it is easy to forget, the intentions and the goals and the hopes that we had at the start of the year. And I came across a social media post the other day and it really, really, really hit home. And I know it hit home for a lot of people that I shared it with. It was just a really simple picture. It was start in November, start in your 40s, start on Friday, start at 5 p.m. Start on the 31st, start late, start. And it really hit home and it was really, really powerful for me. And maybe it is for you. So I just wanted to share it with you today that there is nothing wrong with taking a step towards a goal, even if it's a really hairy, scary one. Make a start. Who cares what date it is? Who cares what day it is? Yes, we have a calendar year. Yes, we have Christmas and then New Year's if that's what you celebrate. There is no need at all to wait until the start of the following year. Sometimes it's really, sometimes I felt in some ways it's like easier to put it off again. And I am so guilty of doing this. And I'm going to get it started in the new year because I can commit to it then 100%. And it never happens, right? Life goes on and we continually have life happening around us. But if we keep putting things off and be like, I'll be more ready, in January, I'll be more ready once, kids go back to school or da, da, da. But what's to stop me from taking a baby step action today or, before the end of the year? It's just, we got to decide, do we want to prioritize it right now? Sure, I get that with lots of other things going on. But I also see the other side of it, whereas at the start of the year, if you had a very solid intention and promise to yourself that you wanted to get started on something, you wanted to take action on something that you've dreamed of doing this year or that you wanted to achieve, why not start today? And depending on how specific your thing is, whether it's possible to do in the next few weeks, sure. And even if you can't get that thing finished, why not make a start on it? So start in November, start in your 40s, start on Friday, start at 5 p.m., start on the 31st, start late, just start. And often the whole starting, I've spoken about this before, it's the start that is the hardest. It's getting over that hump of actually beginning when it's scary and it's new and you're not sure what you're doing and you're an absolute beginner, and that feels really uncomfortable. Gosh, have I learned that this year. It feels really uncomfortable. I'm going to be doing a couple episodes coming up on being a beginner and things that I've learned this year. And it's a really good thing to reflect on at the end of the year. Lessons that you've learned. Maybe there was specific events or challenges that you had through the year. Like, what was the learning in that? Like, maybe the result wasn't what you wanted necessarily. But what did you get out of it? And maybe it was the result that you wanted. And reflecting on how amazing that was. But I feel like this time of year, often a lot of us get into a bit of reflection mode, and sometimes, and I'm like, this totally happens to me too, I'm kind of like, oh, like why didn't I do that this year? And I thought I was going to be able to do this, that, and the other. And, at the start of the year, I was really keen to try this and it's not happened. Or I had this goal and that kind of got shoved to the side by something else. So I'll have a couple of episodes coming up and we can really dive into that together. I'm looking forward to that. And I would love to hear some of the wins and some of the goals that you achieved this year and anything really that was really challenging, but you got a lot out of. We're also going to do a couple of episodes about how scary shit, essentially, and what we can get out of that by putting yourself out there in those scary situations. I don't know, I describe them as scary. You might describe it as something completely different. Things where you're a total beginner, things where you never in 1,000 years thought you would be doing something, and you find yourself there and having a go at it or doing it, or you're really in the thick of working towards a goal and realizing that it's pretty likely that you're going to get there, and how are you going to feel when that comes along? Like, sometimes that in itself is really scary. How's it going to change me? We're going to be doing a bit of reflection, a bit of review of the year, and then of course looking forward into 2025, into the new year, which is crazy. 2025, this year has flown. But today, thinking about what is something at the start of the year, and I find I write this stuff down so I can easily look back on it at this time of year, and I find that really, really fascinating because, to be quite honest, I feel like a completely different person than I did at the start of this year, which is insane. And in some ways, I guess that's every year. We go through a lot of things, we grow, we learn, we change. This year, I've been very intentional about putting myself in uncomfortable situations with goals that are definitely a stretch out of the comfort zone. So maybe that is why that feeling is heightened at the moment. I still have goals that I want to work on and that I am keen to, in one way, I'll just get restarted on that in January and then it'll snowball from there. And otherwise I'm like, why? Why can't I just do 5 minutes on it today? There's so much power in 5 minutes, but it's just, do we allow ourselves? Do we give ourselves that 5 minutes? And at this time of year, what's going on? And it can get really hectic, and our energy levels, for many of us, I know, our energy levels can just go right down when there's so much going on externally. And instead of thinking it like it's going to take too much effort to work on that, it's going to put too much pressure on me, but you could think of it like that, for sure. You could think of it that way. But we could also flip it and be like 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, that potentially could give you back so much energy, is what I found working on those things this year. How much energy it actually gives you back to be working on something that you intentionally want to achieve. A goal, a dream, a desire, when you give yourself permission to work on it, just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, whatever you have, instead of doing something else that's completely sucking your energy away in a different sort of way, it's amazing how much energy you can get back from that and excitement. So, encouraging you today to have a think about what were your goals and intentions at the start of the year. Obviously, things happen that we cannot predict that are so far out of what we thought was going to happen this year. Really sad circumstances that can come up. There's all these things, and that is a life. That's life. But it's really, really special reconnecting back to those goals, those dreams, the desires that you had at the start of a year. And that can be quite potent, like to look back on, to think back on, to journal about, or talk it out with a friend or a family member, like just that little reflection. And you would be surprised how that little spark can come back. And another thing that you might find as well, and I found this too, looking back at some of my goals and intentions from the start of the year, and it was a little surprising, is that I no longer had any connection or any spark with that goal, which I found really surprising, and how much has changed and how much my goals changed throughout the year, that looking back, I'm like, I don't have a connection to that goal anymore. And I know that if it was meant for me, I would have went after it. And, some of them I'm a bit mediocre about. I'm like, I still have this bit of a pull towards it, but I'm not going to force anything. I'm just going to stick with the ones that are giving me that spark, giving me that excitement still at the moment. And what can I do in 5 minutes today towards that? It doesn't have to be about hours. It doesn't have to be about days. But what can you physically do in 5 minutes that is going to be a positive step towards achieving that? It could be the simplest things. It could be looking something up, dates. It could be looking up an event. It could be looking up supplies you need to get started. Like so many different things. But it could be the simple act of writing down that goal again and looking at it for what it is. And do you feel that connection and spark with it still? I found that helpful. And maybe you will too. So a little bit of direction, being back now, season 2 in the podcast. Where is it going from here? And if you're wondering, like, that sounds like a whole mishmash of all sorts, it kind of is, because I'm just getting back into the game. And what I really want this podcast to cover, to help with, to dive deeper into is really 3 main umbrella topics I guess you could talk. It is lifestyle for sure, but we've got wellness, home, and a whole lot of book love. My pretty bookish over here. I'm 60 books into my 100 book goal, which is one of mine this year, and I'm recommitting to that. I'm so excited to get to that by the end of the year, and that sounds insane to read 40 books in a month. But I've been finding some really awesome series that are super quick reads, audiobooks for the win when I'm traveling, or when I'm doing housework. Like, these things are and finding so many cool books. So I'm looking forward to doing a couple of mini book reviews for you again. Some cracker ones that I found this year, and some that I'm looking forward to diving into in the new year. So yes, wellness from, like health hacks, training stuff, home, simplifying home life, decluttering, you name it, and book love. Like I said, mini book reviews. Also a bit about writing. I'm still, here we go. So that's the direction the podcast is going in. So if that sounds up your alley, stick around, hit follow, give us a rating on Spotify. I absolutely appreciate it. Then If you have listened to the first 25 episodes, the first season of this podcast, thank you. And I'm so glad that you're still here. One of my big goals this year was to publish my first book, which I still have that spark and that connection to. But I want to talk about this completely openly and honestly with you. The experience of writing that book was super healing, and it came out rather thick and fast. And then I got to the editing stage, and I've about halfway through editing, and I stalled, like fully stalled on it. And a few weeks back, I went back and I jumped back into it and started editing a bit more. And again, it felt completely different to it that it did at the start of the year. And not bad, not good, not exciting, not boring. It was like somewhere in between. And I was like, was it the actual process of writing the book and getting the experiences and the challenges and all that out of my head and onto paper or onto the computer? Or is it that I want to put this out in the world? And I really started getting in my head about, is this still relevant? Do people still want to find out more about this? Is it still relevant? And I had to think, and I was like, well, I know that I need to go through and do a massive declutter again in my house, like after 6 months. And the middle 6 months of the year is always the busiest for us. And I was like, I need to do some serious simplifying. And I was like, maybe this is still relevant. I need to take my own advice and get started. I'm back on the decluttering bandwagon again, or back on the decluttering horse. And I think I'll do an episode about that, what I'm doing to help get back into that. But that really sparked something in me and made me remember why I started writing, and that, yes, I think it is still relevant. You can let me know if that's something that you're interested in finding out. But yeah, so still in the editing process of that book, and I really wanted to get it out in the world this year. And sure, I absolutely do. And I have started spending a little bit of time editing, but I can see that job in itself is going to be quite time consuming. I am really looking forward to getting it out into the world. And I know, actually, the last episode of season 1, I talked about this perfectionism. And I know that was getting in the way of when I started editing. And I did take a step back and I took a little break, because I know that was, it's all a learning process, right? That was really interfering with my ability to move forward from that step and getting it out in the world. And I'm looking forward to getting over that hump again and getting it out there. So, little update for you on that. But yeah, I would love to hear what you're working on, and what's one thing that you want to start working on, or maybe finish, or make a start on now, not wait till January 1st. Honestly, it's just the next day. Yes, it's a calendar year. Yes, there's really good vibes and really good feelings that come with flipping the calendar and saying goodbye to the year that was and calling in fresh intentions and fresh dreams and goals for the new year. Absolutely. I feel it too. But honestly, if there is something that is calling to you, what can you do in 5 minutes today? That's what I wanted to discuss today. But big welcome back to season 2. I'm so happy that you're here. I really look forward to hearing from you. So you can message me on the Instagram page at Life and a Bookshelf Podcast. DM me over there. If you've got questions, if you have a goal that you want to share with me, I'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and take a screenshot on your phone, share it up to your Instagram stories and tag at Life and a Bookshelf Podcast. And I'll make sure to reshare it on my page. Loved having you here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.
So So that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead, hit that follow button wherever you listen to your podcast. And I would super, super duper appreciate it if you leave a 5-star rating on Spotify. What this does is it helps others like yourself to discover the podcast more easily and enjoy the episodes. I appreciate it so, so much. Have a wonderful day. You absolutely deserve it. We'll see you next time.